Okay, guys, so this is a cross-section of the spinal cord. This is, I would add the butterfly, right? The butterfly is basically gray matter, but we're not going to fill in the color. And we're going to say the gray matter or the butterfly is cell bodies, so that's for processing information. When we talk about the different parts of it, we say ventral horn, we say lateral horn, we say dorsal horn. So this is the back side, this is the front side of the spinal cord cross-section. Now, when we're talking about this as it exits the spinal cord, just imagine the spinal cord as a huge tree trunk. And at the bottom of the tree trunk, we have roots that extend outward, right? So these here are called roots. And anything inside is called a horn. And so if it's on the front versus on the back, here's where we use our mnemonic. Over and over again, this will come up over time. So SAD, MEV, will help you identify the parts and descriptions in terms of final exam questions. So sensory, afferent, dorsal. So one thing is, when information travels upward, it ascends. If I have information from a hot stove that travels up to my arm and then up to the brain, that's an ascending pathway. It's sensory, it's afferent, and it's located dorsal as well. So what about MEV? Well, as I process the information in my head and I think about it, information travels down to the arm for the muscles to move, right? If it's not too hot and I'm thinking about it and I have time to think about it, then I'm going to move eventually. If it's a reflex, it's a little bit different. But it's descending pathway. So descending pathway is located, right, is a part of the motor pathway or motor neurons, efferent pathway, and it's located ventrally. So ventral as in front, front as in anterior. So if you hear front, anterior, or ventral, they're all fair game for the final exam. So ascending is located dorsal, right? Typically, this is now a general rule, but there are always, always, always exceptions, especially when it comes to the body. So when I teach this level 100, remind yourself that when you get to graduate courses, they will teach you more specific, and some of the general rules might not hold true all the time. But this is great ways for you to memorize, at least for my class, my exam, and a lot of the material you'll need to know. So roots. Is this a ventral root or dorsal? It's dorsal. Is it sensory or motor? It's sensory. What about this? This is a root as well. What kind of root is it? Well, it's a ventral root. So what kind of horn is this on the front? It's a ventral horn. What is this in the back? It's a dorsal horn. You got it? So let's see how information travels into and out of. If I have information that I'm sensing, and it travels into the back, it travels through what pathway? SAD, sensory, afferent, dorsal. Well, there's a group of cell bodies that are located outside the CNS but inside the PNS. What are they called? They're called the ganglias, right? So this is a DRG. Can anybody figure out what that means? It says dorsal root, I have that already there, dorsal root ganglia. So dorsal root ganglia. And it's a group of cell bodies for sensation or sensory information that travel through an afferent pathway and enter the spinal cord dorsally. You will hear these kind of questions over and over again, back and forth. So what about ventral root? If I have information that I just processed and I'm sending it out to muscles or even glands that are inside the internal organs for secretion of products or movement, that goes through a ventral root, which is a motor neuron that travels through an efferent pathway ventrally. It descends from the brain. Okay, so this is basically your cross-section. It's a huge amount of material that you will need to know for the final exam.